can't get used to that.
So, welcome to Agile World. Sabrina, how are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
Well, I've been a bit concerned over the last few episodes because, this is meant to be a safe space, and I just feel that it's getting a bit close.
Close? Oh, because of the temperature.
Well, you're beginning to know too much about me and are able to judge me.
It's the rule of thumb of a little sister. You learn your brother's weak spots and then you poke them. And I feel that my duty as a little sister is I got to poke your weak spots.
Okay, well, we're going to need to cut that bit from the show.
Is this porn? Because I'm going to go. This isn't what I signed up for. Poking people's weak spots.
I think that's a different show.
Okay.
Talking about safe spaces, welcome, Cynthia. So, please introduce yourself, because Sabrina says you're a good dude.
Dudette.
Dudette.
I am a good at a dudette. E-T-T-E. Yeah.
It was a lucky opportunity. Oh, sorry, go for it.
Are you going to introduce me? Because make it good.
Yeah, okay. So this is Cynthia. Cynthia, I have actually worked with previously on multiple things. We both work alongside each other with Scrum Alliance. We're both advisors for Scrum Alliance. That's how we first met. And we also did the personal agility session for the Agile 20 Reflect, which is on the archive if you'd like to view it. And I will also put the link to remind people on it. But Cynthia, absolutely amazing. Lucky to have a friend of mine, especially all the way the other side of the world. But I'm not going to go into much detail. Cynthia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Cynthia Kahn, and right now I live in Austin, Texas. So I don't know if it's the other side of the world, but it's in another continent, and it's noon here, so that's cool too. Like, I'm talking to you. How was my day? Was it good? And I'm the founder of GSD Mindset LLC, which is an agile consultancy. And so we've been doing that for, I think, 4 or 5 years. And I've been an agile consultant, and prior to that, a project manager for, and I'm not going to tell you how many years, but for a very long time. So I've seen stuff I can't unsee, right? That's the whole problem, right? That's my story.
That's the problem with all of life, isn't it?
Yes.
You may get to the stage of the end of this, you'll be like, I can't unsee any of this. Thank you for joining us. So the reason we've got you here is we want you to tell us about your Agile journey. Go for it.
Okay. Well, way back when there were only 2 job titles, you were either an application developer analyst, so you programmed, or you were a systems analyst and you system analyzed things and you designed applications and things. That I chose. I started as a developer, and I chose because as you can see, I'm artistic and creative. So it was really hard for me to sit and code all day. It felt I couldn't do it. So anyway, I chose the analytical route. And at some point, those people started managing projects. And then at some point, that wasn't good enough, and you had to get a certification that said you were good at managing projects. So I got my PMP. And along that journey, I discovered object-oriented design, UML, use cases. And as a systems analyst, there's 2 times that I could never go back to the way I thought before. The first time was when somebody showed me use cases, and we went through robustness diagrams and sequence diagrams and how to design applications. It blew my mind. I could not go back. I absolutely positively loved it. I applied, kind of like how we now apply sprint boards and Kanban boards to everything. Like, anytime I went anywhere, whether it was testing, whether it was design, I had a use case for everything, because it all starts with an event, right? Everything that you do starts with why do I want to do that? And what do I expect to happen? Which is perfect. So when I heard about Agile, I thought, oh, this is just object-oriented design project managers. And so I helped found a company and we applied it. Like we got a version of Jira, a version that you could actually set up yourself on a Saturday morning between 8 and 10. You know, I can't even admin projects anymore, hardly.
Yeah.
And we set it up and we got a V1 of this wellness application for people. It was really cool back in the day. So we basically took advantage of Google Maps. Like this is for people who are doing, I lived in Portland, Oregon for a really long time. So all this alternative care. So we had massage therapists and naturopathic physicians and chiropractors, all these people. And a lot of people work for somebody else, but wanted to get their own job. And they didn't have an app where so if you set something up, like they set up other sites and their availability, so we had a count. We did all of this stuff and we did a V1 in a month. We did in 3 months, so in a quarter. And I'm like, this is the best thing. And then of course the company blew up and folded, and I got a job as a Scrum Master. And in the meantime, I got my certified Scrum Master, my CSM, through the Scrum Alliance. And I started working at a big shoemaker that's headquartered in Portland, Oregon. And when they were moving that big giant store to becoming Agile, and we had like one of the best Agile coaches and he helped me like change everything, the way I think, because I was wrong. And so I was there for 2.5 years. He was there for maybe 6 months. And then after that, I'm like, I need to understand how this whole thing works, because it changed the way that I thought. And I could never go back and use my PMP skills. Like I was never going to I haven't used Microsoft projects since. Like I'm never doing that again. And
thank God you said that.
well, you know, we've had this conversation, so I would never, and I really miss that the most. But I decided that I wanted to do consulting because I needed to understand how it applied. I don't want to have 20 years of the same year, right? I want to have an understanding so that I can help people all over the country, basically. And so I started taking individual contracts mostly. And at some point, and I was so tired because I wanted to keep my PMP up, but every time you go to class, it was theory. And I'm like, that you don't leave under theory does not tell you how to apply it in the real world or how it's supposed to be. So one day, and I realize I'm really mature, but my original founder, I'll say her name is April Shepard. And we were sitting in a class that was 3 Saturdays because we wanted 21 sweet PDUs without having to take off of work, right? So, and that was like a year's worth of PDUs for a PMP. And so she talks me into this 3 Saturdays. I'll never get back. I'm not going to tell you the class, but so we're sitting there as mature adults texting each other like, this is I can't believe I'm sitting here like through 21 hours of different Agile theories. Like it was ridiculous. Like, what are you supposed to do with this after you're done except go in and claim your PDUs? And so like, we can do better. We can get more. I don't know what this show is rated, since it's not really porn, but it's get shit done. We said, okay, we can get more shit done now. And so we looked up GSD. And so we said, okay, we're going to have a GSD mindset. We got gsd.guru because it was short. And that was at when they first started having non.com and .net domains. And so we did that. And then we focused on the practical application of Scrum. So what we did was we decided that we were going to, what are the 10 things that you need to know? We kind of made an outline, and then we had a class on a Saturday. The original Scrum in a Day was at her house, and we invited some people that we knew who knew Agile, and then people who didn't know, like a friend of hers who was in sales. Like we just invite, can anybody understand what we're trying to convey? Because we thought it was so simple, yet everyone seemed to be making it so darn complicated, right? And so that was a Scrum in a Day. And then we wrote a handbook to go with it and started talking. And the rest is kind of history. And then throughout that, she didn't want to do it after a year or two. So then I have a new partner, well, not new, but we've been doing it for like 3 or 4 years together. Her name is Jerry Slama Grove. And we started talking about how to apply it in personal life, in our personal life. Like the Agile mindset is needed for everything. And that was when I submitted something a little bit different to give a TED talk in Austin here to the Barton Springs Women's Forum. And the lady talks to me and she goes, well, what do you do? And so I explained it to her. She goes, man, people need to learn how to do that. I said, really? Because that wasn't the topic. And I said, okay, and then it's this very structured process, which ended up being the TED talk. But after that, Jerry and I spent a year developing a whole thing for the personal agility, like goal setting and achievement, saying, okay, so you need epics. Well, what is an epic? Well, epic is a goal. And when we go epics and break down the deliverable components, because that's our way to teach planning. And so then we said, okay, so what is it? What do you do to achieve a goal? Well, you have to identify what accomplishments you need to achieve a goal and then put them into a timeline. And then you'll know and you could get a Kanban flow board or a Trello board, and then you put things that help you know what your accomplishments are. And so then you can figure out where you are in relation to where you want to be. That originally was the Agile process was 3 things, like deciding what's important and needs your attention. The second thing was decide what you want to accomplish before you create the tasks on your to-do list. And then the third thing is take time to reflect to see if you should keep going in the same direction or it's time to pivot. And that came to what we talked about, Sabrina, which was FAR, focus, accomplish, reflect. And so everything about the Agile mindset is about focusing on the right things, accomplish something now, and then determine whether or not you're going in the right direction or not. Because I think a lot of people just decide something and then they blindly go, or they don't try to accomplish something and then they realize, well, maybe number 1, focus on what's important. It wasn't that important, right? So things like that. So now I speak to smaller companies and I'm trying to understand where you say meet people where they are. And then after the Agile 20 Reflect, where they were talking about, we talk to teams, but we haven't embraced management and how to manage and to think with agility. And so that is what I'm trying to do at this moment. And I'm finding out that it's more than what we thought. We're in a worse position, I think, than we think when it comes to the Agile mindset, which kind of makes me sad a little bit. And so I'm always looking for people to work with me to help change that paradigm, because I honestly, sometimes I think that Agile could go by way of a lot of theories that go by the wayside because we haven't found the real problem that we're solving, and we haven't communicated the benefit, and we haven't gotten the commitment. Like the number 1, focus on what's important. Becoming Agile isn't important until sometime, like when I talk to companies and it's too late. Like they've gotten a breach letter from their client. They're in a startup and they've spent all their money and they haven't released an MVP. These are the types of things. So it's like, we're missing the boat with our messaging. And I'm glad that, we speak to businesses, but when we do speak in general terms like focus, accomplish, reflect, it's still a pretty theory, but it's not a practical application of Agile frameworks, right? So people don't think it's easy. I had a guy tell me this week that, well, we're Agile. Because he was in the Army, he goes, because it's just like a series of small battles, right? You win some, you lose some. And I'm like, no, it isn't. It's a team. It's sharing responsibility, becoming accountable, and walking your talk. So it runs the gamut of what people think is Agile, right? And I think that's where the real power
is that then the real problem is that there's everyone's heard the word Agile now, but they all mean different things to people.
They don't. Yeah, it's Agile means I'm flexible, right? Or I can do but it doesn't. They don't understand that to practice agility, means that you need to follow a framework. And the interesting thing is, like being a PMP, I train a lot of project managers who are like trying, and people, like I talk to a lot of PMI groups and things like that. And it's so different that when you sell something, you're always like saying, here you are, and here you want to be here. I can help you go here to here. And so you talk about it and you're like, well, here you're not going to, I don't know. We've missed the boat of getting people from here to here, right? People are here. They want to be here. They get to here and they're like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, this is too hard. It's not working. But then you have to realize, if you really peel away a little bit of that onion, that they're not even practicing project management very well. So it's not like, it is not traditional versus agile, which is where we've always put ourselves, like we're against each other. I mean, if you're doing traditional really well, then you probably aren't even thinking about it. But the reality is businesses are not practicing any of it well, right? Yeah. So that is the problem. The problem is,
we had the same problem back like 30 years ago with business process reengineering. People would say, you've come to save our company. And we're going, no, we're here to help your company function in a more logical manner so that you can save your own company. And, and people look at you like, what? Well, you're not going to save my company? No, we can't do that because we don't understand the intricacies of what makes your company operational. We're just here to make sure that you all understand how you cross-relate to each other so that when there are problems, you know what to do about them. And I think that for me, that's kind of where Agile has got to, is we have got so focused on Agile, and we've forgotten solving problems, delivering products, giving value. And businesses don't care about Agile. They care about servicing customers. They care about the bottom line. They care about paying dividends to their shareholders. That's what they care about.
But I think also accepting responsibility. Oh, sorry,
yeah.
Dave. But I mean, the number one thing is management thinks, like, when you get high enough and they're the ones that are paying and making the decisions, they don't care what happens. Like literally, I mean, I don't, you can argue with me, but I've talked to enough Dutch presidents who say, I don't care if you use traditional Agile, I just need to get from here to here. And I'm like, that's the wrong attitude, because it begins with you and ends with you. So part of it is a culture without that it's somebody else's fault, right? Like when something wrong happens, the person who gets fired or gets in trouble is not really the person that is accountable or responsible, right? Like that's not what happens. And so when Agile or project management or we don't deliver doesn't work, it can't be Bob's fault, because Bob isn't running everything. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
well, my classic one is, so you're gonna set up Agile in your teams, great. Are you going to fund them in an Agile way? Are you going to do legal in an Agile way? Are you going to do product management in an Agile way? Are you going to do your sales in an Agile way? Oh, no, we're not changing any of that. And said, well, then you're only going to get a very small amount of Agile, because actually you're going to send stupid ideas to the development teams. They'll build them for you in an Agile way. Your marketing team will take them and spend the same $100 million they did last year, trying to get people to buy stuff that no one wants. And it's that kind of stuff. Unless you actually embrace it at a broad level, it doesn't really give the values that it can do. But it will work. I mean, it will work. You can honestly produce higher quality rubbish.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Well, no, I've seen it. It's because if you at a team level, they will solutionize rubbish for you. Believing that the senior management and the people who come up with these ideas know that there's a market for it and actually aren't on a Forbes ego trip, where in fact they are, and no one has challenged them at a high level to say, does anyone want this?
I think that's the whole thing. I think years ago, and I think it's only recently, and probably only recently, I'm saying in the past year, maybe year and a half, where we all know our jobs, 9 times out of 10, we are hired by somebody within a leadership level. And 9 times out of 10, we've been hired because it's the teams that have just basically been crying and screaming because they want to work in a more agile fashion, an agile way, no matter which version they want to use. And 9 times out of 10, the people that we get pushed back is leadership. But actually, I kind of feel that since the COVID-19 situation, and also with a lot of places I've been speaking to, leadership are actually wanting to get involved, and they are actually wanting to take an interest, and they actually do want to learn. Now, we talked about several years ago, they just expect us to go in, do the job, work with the team, exactly what you just described, Karl. But I think things are changing. I think leadership are now understanding that they have a part to play in agility. They don't know which one, they don't know how, they don't know what their part will be, and there is a massive confusion there. And there's also a bit of fear, actually. You know, if everything's working like a well-oiled machine, the way that you advertise it by doing agility, you know, what place is there for us? But they are interested, and I think that's happened recently, and that's only from recent conversations I've been having. Everyone's stunned.
Yeah, I mean, because the people who are talking to you they're becoming enlightened. But I mean, when you talk, and you're talking probably to larger companies, when you're talking to mid-sized and smaller companies, the leadership, they may or may not understand it. But I think the whole point of the conversation is to say that we need to get people, we need to speak to them. Like when we go to our our advisory meetings, and we're still talking to the individuals who are going to be developers and Scrum Masters and product owners. Those days are like gone. We need to start. Everything needs to be higher.
Well, I think the real thing is that there's more than one way into an organization, and you know, in a fabulous marketing campaign, you don't talk to people like you talk to everyone, and therefore you target your messages and your benefit models. So when I talk to dev teams about why they should adopt Agile, I talk about them becoming self-organizing, and I talk about how they, yeah, I know it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen in some places. How are you going to become self-organizing? How are you going to pull the work in based around the prioritization you get from the product owner, plus your insight on what will work and what won't work? But at the next level up, you're talking to the product owners and to the divisional managers, and you're saying to them, well, you know, really what you need here is a level of flexibility. You need to be able to push work and make it available where there is capacity. Do you always know where capacity is? Well, if your teams are self-organizing, then they will draw down on the available work wherever it is located. And what you're doing is you're just giving, it's the same story. You know, the CEOs and CFOs I've spoken to actually want Agile. They genuinely want it. They are concerned about a revolt of senior managers and divisional chiefs who think that their values will be undermined. Well, actually, the real value point for these people is that you have less pressure to do things when actually it can be done by the people who produce the work. You know, you're actually reducing your overhead of stress because you're accepting that people are more skilled than they were 100 years ago.
We will get there. We will get there.
I think so. I mean, maybe you guys are more, you see it more in Europe than I'm seeing in the United States, maybe because I started focusing on smaller companies, because I feel like that's where you can have more of an impact, and because those companies are growing or whatever. And I think people who have an idea and start a company and then they become a CEO, they just get out. It's overwhelming because they're not equipped for CEOship or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then you're bringing on Agile or whatever it is. Like, you're not managing your projects with regular project management. You're not going to Agile seems like, what does that mean? I don't even understand it. Things like that. So it's kind of like we just haven't spoken enough to the right people to explain the importance of the fact that we can't escape from a changing economy. We have to focus what the concept of minimum viable product is and why we have to continuously redefine what that is So we continuously release product so that we know if we're still on the right track, right? And we need to have product ownership. That's the one thing that I hadn't seen that before, but like as the pandemic hit, like I'm talking to people and they're like, they'll say, well, we need a Scrum Master. And I said, well, like, who's your product? What's your team look like? And they want the Scrum Master to be the product owner and the project manager. And I'm like, no, you can't. And then you have to explain, they don't understand that product ownership is the representation of the customer, and it brings the product into the team so that everybody's aware of what's happening, and it spreads the accountability and responsibility. Developers are more accountable because they have to walk their talk, and the Scrum Master is the one that brings it all together and escalates. And they're like, what did you just say? Like, what is that? And so people don't understand the roles and responsibilities because we're not doing traditional, like we're not doing racy diagrams, right? Responsibilities, accountability, whatever. I don't remember anymore, but
don't you think we've kind of skipped a couple of steps there? Because, you know, where Agile is it's acknowledged that customer experience is important, whereas lots of businesses haven't. You know, they care about their customers because they care about whether or not they get paid, but actually their usual response to bad customer interaction is to either cut them loose, do a marketing campaign, or redirect them onto a different product instead of actually fixing the problems. You know, if you want to find out what a company needs to do next, go and listen into the support calls. Because the customers, you know, every month they have a top 10 support call query list, which is the actual problems with the company. But, you know, we kind of accepted that in Agile, that actually, you know, we should be responsive and evolve according to what the customer needs. But I think there's a bit within business that still thinks that their job is to tell the customer what they want. And actually,
like
the
Henry
customer
Ford.
well, yeah,
I would want a faster horse.
They can have a black car, but you know, Steve Jobs did the same thing. He said, you know, customers don't know what they want. Well, that's kind of true, but they also know what they don't want. So they may not know what they want, but they also know what they don't want. They don't want to be told to just accept whatever product you've got.
Well, we have pushback.
Back to what Cynthia was saying earlier, the common factor also is an issue is around the roles and responsibilities as well. Commonly, 9 times out of 10, we go into places and they've either got their roles missing or they've got their roles completely wrong, or they're amalgamating roles together and thinking it will still work. And they're still thinking, well, we're doing it, but we just don't understand what we're doing wrong. And I almost want to use the analogy, if you buy a car, you wouldn't buy a car without a steering wheel. If you want to go agile, you need these particular roles because they have responsibilities of doing things and how they net together. And it is roles and responsibilities is normally one of the biggest thing. I normally go in, we normally go in. That's the first thing we need to kind of fix and go, right, this is a role. And I think one thing I noticed today, I went round, I was writing a roles and responsibilities job description. I thought, you know what, it's been a while since I've kind of done a bit of a Google for what, you know, what are people advertising for a Scrum Master role out of interest? It's been a while. The only ones I see are like recruiters that send them over to me. I thought, you know, it'd be quite interesting. And I did. And believe it or not, 9 times out of 10, these roles of advertising for a Scrum Master, no word of a lie, 15% of what the role actually was. It's almost like they're relying on a really experienced Scrum Master to come in and then go, well, actually, this is what should be done. I could not believe it. They even advertise. They're not even advertising what a full role, what an actual role of a Scrum Master is. And that's for somebody to hire someone. Maybe that's a little rant from what I found today. I don't know.
It's because they're project manager job descriptions with, you got to keep the JIRA and have the daily stand up and do status reports and a Gantt chart. And then you already know.
Microsoft project.
Yeah, well, they don't usually save the, you know, they probably won't do that, but yeah, but that's the other speech that I give a lot is the Agile Mindset for Managers. And my other little acronym is TOP. You need to train people so they even know, like a lot of times you start, they don't even know. Train, organize. Are you organized for agility? right? Because you can't, maybe you have a PMO, maybe you don't. How are you going to set up your projects? Are you going to have it by capability? Or are you going to have it by project and reorganize all the time? Like, what is it that you're going to do? People don't think I'm just going to hire somebody and we're going to practice Scrum tomorrow. Well, it doesn't work. You have to organize and then prioritize, like, what are these people going to work on? I mean, before you even like define your Scrum team. So train, organize, and prioritize. And people don't do that. They just start, and then they're like, well, Agile doesn't work. And then you dig a little deeper and you're like, oh, well, your traditional, the way you're managing projects now doesn't work either. So you're in a world, these people are in a world of hurt. So I think the whole point of the conversation is, and I don't have the direct answer, I try, but is to change the way that we communicate about what we do, right? And maybe it isn't product ownership because nobody cares. They care about that, but maybe product ownership is the thing. Shared responsibility, accountability, getting stuff done, focusing on the right features, whatever it is, so that we can get the management to understand how important it is. Because I've worked on Agile teams and been told, I don't care what you do, what % complete are you right now? Like, I don't care if you're Agile or you're like jumping off a tree, swinging from a tree. I don't care. I need this done by this date or my bonus. I don't get my bonus. And so we have to change that, where I am the boss and you need to give me stuff, but you're part of the solution, because you have to make sure that they are in an environment that is conducive to success. And so that's that's not something any one person can do. And I think, like what you said, Karl, like maybe you should go to them. Well, do you think that I can hire you to lose 15 pounds for me? And will I look better at the end? Because that's basically what you're asking to do. You're asking me, oh, am I going to be slim and trim? Can you make me that? And I go, well, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's how absurd it is.
Yeah.
Can you be me? No.
That exact example you gave, 9 times out of 10, we've all done it. I've gone to a personal trainer and gone, right, I need to lose weight for my wedding. And apparently you're going to do it without thinking, actually, no, I've got to make some sort of effort to do it. It's an amazing analogy, because we do it ourselves. I did it to this gym instructor. I said, right, I need to lose weight for my wedding. Right, okay, so you need to do all this. No, you're gonna help me lose weight. Yeah, but love, you've got to do the hard work. You've got to do all that. I'm just going to show you what you need to do. And now I've had an epiphany that we are like personal trainers, because we get asked these questions and we turn around and say, well, this is what you need to do. And they're like, well, go do it. We're like, actually, no. We're showing you how to do it and we're going to help you implement it, but you got to do the work. I'm now going to think that every time I do my job. I'm a personal trainer.
Well, I mean, I can't tell you. You know that that's the situation when you're trying to explain, like, let's work together to do this solution. Let's pick this, and then they look at you and go, well, can't you be the Scrum Master? And you're just like, I'm teaching you to fish, dude. Like, I'm teaching you to fish. And
If I get asked, I'm like, yeah, sure, I love it. I probably get too enthusiastic. They're like, oh, I'll facilitate this and I'll show you how it's done. I'll get this done. So maybe I'm too enthusiastic, but yeah, I'm always up for it. Sometimes I want to push the Scrum Master out, go, let me have a go. Let me have a play.
That's not going to help them.
No, it doesn't help. They need to, and they need not just the headway. They also need the support, and they need to know that you're not going to judge them, because that's the other thing. Is you can't succeed or fail when you've got an audience.
Yeah. But also, it's sometimes to show them. A lot of places, the first thing they ask is, show us what good looks like. And I'll turn around and say, I'm not going to say that I'm absolutely amazing at this. And I will show you, you will see from me the techniques that I use and how I do it. But it doesn't mean it's amazing. This is just from my personality. But sometimes we've all had the question, show us what good looks like. And you're like, good looks like.
And with that, we're going to have to end. But Sabrina has got a continuous delivery of marketing wherever she goes.
Yeah. Well, we know what good looks like, girlfriend.
Yeah, you tell me, girlfriend. Well,
Right,
thank
so I'm
you very
gonna
much,
thank you
Cynthia.
very much.
You've been absolutely amazing. As always, we are bringing you back. We want to get more into the personal agility side. We've got
Oh,
some
yeah.
different things that are coming up, and you are coming up. We're going to get into that personal, especially the fact it's a passionate of mine and yours. But thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
Thank you
Cynthia.
for thanks for putting up with me for how long.
Well,
Oh, we love it.
Talk to you
Thank
guys
you.
later.
Bye.